as intense the verbal taunts or the stares as the exclusion. So feeling left out and feeling as though I didn't belong, and little things as not being picked for the sports team and all of those things, or not being invited to the birthday parties and the sleepovers and that sort of stuff. And as a young child, that has a really profound impact on how you see yourself and where you fit in. And so for me, what I'm trying to explain to people is that bullying has so many facets. It's very, very complex. And what we need to help our children to understand is empathy and respect and kindness. And one of my biggest concerns now as a parent is that my children will be teased and bullied because of the fact that their mum looks different. And so, I've heard everything. People have called me all sorts of names, and I've been in all sorts of, uncomfortable situations because of my disability. But I've learnt how to manage that and how to respond in a way, that protects my own energy and things like that. But what I can't do is control other people, and I certainly can't control what will happen to my children in the playground. And so a lot of the work that I'm trying to do now with young people in the UAE and around the world is to educate them around diversity and difference, so that when they meet my children, it's not a point of, weakness. This is what happens when we, sort of attack somebody else. It's trying to find their point of weakness. And I know that for even already, with my young children, is that there's been comments that have been made about me that have been hurtful. And so how do we teach our children to be kind and to be understanding? And so that's, the basis of what I'm doing. But exclusion is something that we really have to focus on, because when people feel alone and when they feel as though they're not supported, this is when we start to see that those, emotional struggles and the mental load becomes far too much. So it's not necessarily bullying the way that it's portrayed, as someone constantly verbally saying something to somebody. We have to look at it from all different perspectives.
Yeah. And it's so interesting you say that, Jessica, because as a mom now, I feel birthday parties are like so much drama in politics, and you feel like, just the exclusion aspect that you're bringing up, and it's cruel and it's wounding, and it starts pretty early on.
Yeah, it really does. And I think that that's where parents have to understand that we are our children's biggest role model.
Yeah.
They don't always do what we say, but they will absolutely do what they see us do. And so we have to be behaving in a way that signifies how we want our children to behave. They have to see that every single day at home in the interactions that their parents are having with other adults and other children, because that's how they learn. And so my biggest message is for parents to understand that what you say to your children at home, the way that you act in a public setting. So for example, if people were to see me at a local park with my children, often what happens is a young child will say, "Oh, mum, dad, that lady only has one arm." And parents will say, "Shh, we can't talk about it, let's leave," or let's, not bring it to attention. What you do in that moment is you tell your child that there's something wrong with this situation.
Right.
Having a disability or looking different is not good, and we can't discuss it. So let's talk about it later. Let's not bring any attention to it.
Yeah.
And all within that moment, you've created that disconnect straight away. Whereas if we simply validate what our children see and what they're observing in their world from their perspective, we allow them that time and that space to say, oh, it's okay to be different. So if parents can just say, yes, she does have one arm.
Yeah.
And that's it. There doesn't have to be all this added emotion and confusion around that. Allow our children to simply say what they see, because of course, seeing somebody that looks different for a young child can be not necessarily confronting, but overwhelming if they haven't seen somebody with certain disability. Of course, I'm not denying that at all. But how we respond is what's important, and it always comes back down to kindness and respect.
Absolutely. And this whole hushing up of things doesn't really help.
Well, it doesn't. And, and that can, be said for anything where we try not to talk about it. Let's not talk about it. Don't bring attention to it. It'll go away. But it never does. The same with mental health issues.
Exactly.
And we have to talk about these things so that people feel supported, but at the same time alleviate some of that stigma.